Hi, this is Becca,
And this is Kyla.
and you are listening to the Chatterbox. Thank you for listening, whether you are a new or a returning listener. We would like to thank you for your support because we literally can't do this without you guys. So, the more interaction that we get on our platform, the more it's going to be easier for new listeners to find us. So please like, share, and subscribe to our pages online. We have a Facebook page, we have Instagram, we have TikTok. So like, share, subscribe also to our YouTube channel and to our Spotify. But that is all of the announcements that we have, really. We are going to get into one of my most favorite topics ever because this is something that I have been very passionate about since I learned about it. I learned about this in 2023, and since then I have not had a platform to, I guess, speak up about this kind of stuff. And bringing to light this philosophy is something that I have always wanted to do and just raise awareness for the cycles of time, which we will get into all of that in a minute. But essentially, Hindu philosophy says that time is a cycle and that man is subject to these cycles or shifts in consciousness that are associated with these cycles of time. It is super interesting, and that's going to be what we talk about today. So, but before we get into that, you're going to get a bonus topic because this is Chatterbox and we want to talk about shit. So, we're going to kind of just talk about what we feel about all of the plane crashes that are going on. It is worth noting that there are actually less crashes so far this year than there have been in years past. Going back all the way to 2001, we're talking about fatal crashes and non-fatal. The year that had the most plane crashes, fatal and not fatal, was 2003. And we are not, through the year right now, obviously. So we can't really compare a lot of data, as in, like, we can't, like, go all the way to December of 2025 and, compare all of the data. But plane crashes seem to be on the downward trend right now, apparently.
Yeah.
And what do you think about what's going on here? I want your thoughts.
Do you really?
Yes.
Okay. Um, so I saw someone talking about how it's it's basically like you just said, like there's every year there's a bunch of plane crashes. They just don't talk about it in the media. So like why are they making it very likely that you're gonna see it on the media now? Because everybody's getting distracted. They want you to maybe fear of flying so you don't leave. Maybe they want you to stay here. I don't know. Maybe they want you to ultimately, if you've never flown at all, this definitely going seal, lock, and sign the deal if you will not want to fly.
Mm-hmm.
You can't live your life worrying if you are gonna potentially be that person that if we're to be in that plane crash or something. You can't live your life wondering if something bad could happen because then you're never really going to do anything with your life realistically. So I think they're trying to scare us, but realistically plane crashes happen more often than we know.
Well, your thoughts can manifest things, so that is entirely possible. But I'm not saying, I am absolutely not saying that, like, the crash victims for what happened in DC, I'm not saying that they manifested that shit.
What do you mean? Like,
So, like, I'm not saying that, like, everybody who got on that plane that, that crashed over DC, I'm not saying that they were all thinking, like, oh, this plane's gonna crash, and then it crashed.
yeah.
I think, okay, I'm gonna give my true thoughts on that one real quick. When you look at the footage, just looking at it from an outside perspective, do not look at what the news is telling you. Just watch the video. The helicopter legitimately, it didn't go up or down. It just plowed right into it. And you're not going to sit here and tell me that a military plane with military soldiers who are highly trained to not crash planes, you're not going to tell me that that shit was not on purpose. You're just not. Like, look at the video for yourself. Don't even look at the news headline. Just watch it legitimately plow straight. It's going just straight. The plane is coming down. It was going to land. So the plane's coming down. The helicopter's going straight. That was so purposeful. That was on purpose. There was somebody on that plane that they wanted dead, or they were trying to make a statement. And what I think is that
Say it.
what happened to all the drones? What happened to all of those stories about drone sightings? Where are they? You don't see anything. You don't see reports about drones anymore. You only see reports about these plane crashes. So, like,
They only want you to see what they want you to see. It's always going to be like that. No matter what you want to believe, it's all what they want you to believe. Like, so you have to really open your eyes and look for yourself.
I truly think that these plane crashes are not, I feel like it's purposeful in a way because they want to distract us from other things that are going on. And you know how, especially over in Pennsylvania, in the Gulf of Mexico, because I'm not going to call it the Gulf of America, there was so many sightings, especially there was a Florida, New York, California. There were sightings of drones everywhere. I was getting this impression that they were kind of creating this mass hysteria from the drones because people were getting scared. Like, what are these drones? Is it Russia? Is it this? Is it that?
Oh yeah, I remember. First, I didn't remember what you were talking about, but now I do.
Yeah, because everybody was saying, like, there's just unknown flying objects in the sky. And they weren't calling it a UAP, they were calling it drones.
But they want you to think that it was another government, but realistically, it's another scare tactic.
Mm-hmm.
It's that movie I told you about, Leave the World Behind or whatever.
Yeah.
When they like put all those like Japanese flyers to lead you in a different direction, to think that it was another country, and then everybody's against each other because you don't know who to trust. So it's another tactic of the government trying to put one against one another because you don't know the real truth. So you're going to make your own theory. And then everybody's, oh, this is my theory. So you're against this person. You can't trust the next door neighbor because they basically made you think that way.
I truly think that there is a war going on in the skies right now with those drones. I think that right now, the U.S. government and they're in collusion with other governments around the world. I think that they are trying to shoot down these drones, wherever they're coming from. They're trying to get these drones so they can either reverse engineer them because like there were orbs in New York as well. There was one video on TikTok that I saw that was just light orbs, like multiple, circling. And people were scared. They were like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what are these things? And then they saw fighter jets shooting past them, trying to get them away from the public. And it really makes me think that whatever's going on with the drones is still going on and it's going on heavy. And it's so heavy that the media has now been paid by probably the CIA to distract the public.
So you think it is another country, not America?
I don't specifically think it's another country. I feel like.
So who's been fighting? Is it America fighting America? Because I don't think a drone will be coming from another country. I really don't.
I think the drones also might be something that's not terrestrial.
Well, I don't even know if this is relevant, but the green people have been trying to make contact with us. So who knows? Maybe they're still trying to not let them and they really want to.
Mm-hmm.
And
maybe they're trying to warn us about what's about to happen, which is what we're going to be talking about today.
They're not allowed to talk to us or something like that. And
there's probably been like a mutual agreement, or they probably
it's like different, like the Greens or something. Like there's only so many left, but like they want to like reach out, but they're probably maybe not getting allowed to. Like anything you see that might be, oh my god, that's scary. Go fucking. I mean, I know this kind of things you're not supposed to, but go look at it. I'm like, go see what it is.
Yeah. No, Dude, if I saw a drone in the sky, I would be taking a video. And actually, I just thought about this
If you
too.
abducted, it couldn't be that bad. Fuck. Like,
Oh, it probably would.
what if they're good though? What if like they take? I don't know. What if you had that open, the pineal gland, because of them?
Yeah, I wonder if all of our pineal glands have been calcified due to the amount of fluoride that's in all of our waters and shit like that. Like, for real.
I mean, no matter
Which,
what, you're always fucked.
yeah. So, this is, I mean, I
Either
can't,
you're throwing shit out your windows or we're getting poisoned by the food. It's every era is fucked up.
well, this era specifically, but there's actually this book that I've been listening to. It's by John E. Mack. He's he's an MD. He's a Harvard professor of psychiatry, and he is a Pulitzer Prize winning author. And I can't pronounce it, sorry. But the book is called Abduction, and it's the 20th anniversary edition. I'm listening to it on Spotify. And basically, he objectively meets with men and women who have claimed that they have been abducted by aliens. And he just basically objectively records their stories. He kind of puts them in a like trance-like state, or kind of like a hypnosis type thing. And he lets them tell their stories. And so far, I'm only halfway through the book. And everybody has different experiences because some of them are horrifying. Some of them, like the women especially, some of them say that they're just taking samples. Some of them say that they're being like inserted with some type of like embryo and then they're dropped back off at home. And then later on, they're picked back up and then they have this baby and then they're sent back. Like,
say this, but it also said in the video that I watched, this is on TikTok, by the way, so it says that the greens, since they are about to go extinct, they're trying to find a way to mate with the human population to not let their race go extinct. And that they've been failing because it doesn't work, because we're different than them biologically.
mm-hmm.
That's what I saw. So that's
No,
it was a video.
I believe in extraterrestrials. I do.
They don't want to die.
Do I know for sure if the drones are extraterrestrial or not? I truly feel
What
like
if they're not there anymore? What if they really did stop?
I don't think so.
But I don't see them. I had seen them before. I've seen little things. One time, one followed me years ago. This was before the big drone thing, though. I saw like a light, and it was like it was following me against uh the electricity poles, like the lines.
Mm-hmm.
This was when I wasn't dating Trapper yet, so it was a while ago. And I was driving down Judd.
Okay.
So I'm trying to remember who I was dating at this time. It was a boyfriend for sure. But something was fucking following us. I think it was Max DJ. But I kept seeing a light following me. But it wasn't it was close enough for me to see it. But you could tell, but it was going against the electricity line. So I could see it at that level. It was weird.
Okay.
And when I turned, it would turn.
But it was kind of like an orb?
Like it was it wasn't like that blue light. It was like a regular
It was just like a white light that was kind of like a circle. Okay.
But this was over 4 years ago.
So I didn't know that you had a paranormal experience like that.
It's paranormal though. It was very tiny. It wasn't like a big object. It was tiny. It was a tiny little, like it was not big. It was
crazy.
It was a drone. I was like, because like there's traffic drone, like this motherfucker's following me. I'm speeding. I'm sitting here thinking like,
yeah. I mean, I'd be scared too if something was following me
for a consecutive amount of time for me to not notice it.
See, the only type of experience that I've had like that is when I was camping out at the gorge. I think this was in 2020 or 2021. I can't specifically remember the year, but I remember that we were camping and at Red River Gorge, which is in Kentucky, if you don't know, there is little to no light pollution there. So the stars there are just incredible. Okay. So it was just me and my man, and we're just camping together. We're laying down in the grass, looking at the stars and just talking. And then all of a sudden, something that's as high up as the stars starts circling. it was circling multiple stars, looking like it was like trying to land. And I said, do you see what I'm seeing? He looks at it, he said, where? I'm like trying to point. I'm like, that right there. Do you not see that that's circling? And he finally was like, huh. He's like, there's no way that's a satellite. I said, yeah, there's no way. So then we're sitting there watching it for at least like 5 to 10 minutes. Like, what the heck is it doing? Finally, it gets up close to, I don't know if it was like a planet or what, but it like circled in almost like a spiral, and then it looked like it landed like on a star or something.
Oh, see that? I thought it was in the sky.
It was up in the stars. Like, so like,
okay. I'm starting to think it's like in your galaxy.
no, like it was up in the stars. It was circling, but it looked like just like a star, like a little dot. Yeah, it was a little tiny dot, but it wasn't as bright as the stars. It was like a little dimmer, but it was like circling in like almost like a spiral formation, like it was trying to land. And I kept saying, I was like, is that a satellite? Like, what is that? And Eric was just finally like, I don't think that's a satellite. That has to be some type of ship or something. And that's the only type of scenario where I have had something, or I guess I could say that I have witnessed some type of extraterrestrial phenomena. Something.
Yeah, I just like
Oh.
I said they're fucking finding new ways to get people. I'm gonna get a ticket in the mail. Like, I wasn't driving, but I was still freaked out that we were getting followed.
This is the last thing, I guess, before we get into the whole topic thing. So, something I've seen on TikTok also is Project Bluebeam, which Project Bluebeam was something that the government was doing to reverse engineer spacecraft. So, that's what happened in Area 51, at other plane crashes, I guess, or sorry, plane crashes, extraterrestrial crashes around the US. I guess the government's goal at the time for Project Bluebeam, which is probably still going on, that whatever spacecraft they can get to either shooting it down or finding it, they want to take that craft and reverse engineer it for their own gain. Because they want to have a leg up on these other countries. They want to have some shit that they don't.
It's all about power.
Mm-hmm. So, truly, whatever's going on with the drones, I feel like it's still going on. I feel like the plane crashes are an absolute distraction from that. And I feel like it's also another way to cause mass hysteria to the public to make them scared to fly or try to leave their country because it's a fear tactic. They're fear mongering.
And I'm gonna tell you what, 80%, I'm sorry, 80% of you guys are gonna believe it and be fearful to not fly. You know, I'm just trying to have positive vibes and positive manifestation out here, and that's all I can do. But a girl's gonna do what she's gonna do, and she's gonna travel. She's not gonna stay stuck in this godforsaken country. You know, one day I might never fucking come. I always tell Trapper that, but I can't leave my dog, so I need to get him registered as a service dog. Then they can't say shit. Then I'm out.
I would love to move eventually, but that's just not in the cards for me.
If I could just literally get you, you know, your family, all my closest people in my life to move with me out the country, we would be good. We could just go to a castle in Italy. Everyone has their own space. Go do some gardening, do a walk, maybe grow a garden, sell to your local fucking farmer's market.
Start a cult. I'm just kidding.
Harmony. Harmony. And in fact, if you did, I'd shit myself.
Hey, that's what people be doing. Like,
yours could be a good one.
I could start a good cult.
There is such thing as good cults.
I'm just kidding. I think that there would be a possibility to start a community, but then other people would be like, "That's a cult."
What's the show, The Community Garden? It's a cult. Trapper was trying to watch it, but
Community Garden?
something. Community something. It's like a show, but it's like a cult. Hold on. Show. Community Living Garden. It's called The Garden. It's a commune or cult. About the show, on 22 acres of backcountry land in the American South lies The Garden, an off-grid community living by its own laws, free from the blah, 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 blah.
We should cover that.
That's where I started watching it, and then I think he stopped watching it. I don't even know if it's like, I think it was new.
Yeah, it's 2023. I mean, it's close, but yeah. See, a cult is something that we haven't covered yet, but it is definitely going to be in the cards for next month.
Stuff and died. Or they.
Oh, that's the Jim Jones.
That one was cool. Not cool, like as in the people died, but like the whole theory of it and the way people can really follow someone and truly believe in something. It's just crazy.
Yes, we don't think cults are cool, but we think that the
idea of like people's brains and how they work and where they got to where they are and how people got to that point of believing that person. Like your brain is interesting.
It's fascinating to learn about cults and just to learn how people can just be manipulated, whether you think it's easily or not. I mean, you can't say that you know what you would do in that situation because you weren't in that. You didn't live through that.
We're all manipulated, you know, and as people are in cults, it's just in a smaller group. These nuts got it, got it. These nuts. I'm done.
We took a short break due to technical difficulties of our mic disconnecting and also, just watching Vine since that's what we do here. But without further ado, because we are most definitely dragging this on, we are going to get into our topic for the day, which is reviewing the book, which is Yuga Shift. It is written by Bibu Dev Misra. I may be mispronouncing it. I have been following him for years on online articles. I don't know if this is his first book or not, but I have read this book now twice. And this book basically just goes into the cycles of time. And in Hinduism, a yuga represents an epoch or an era. And there are 4 yugas. Each is progressively shorter than the one preceding it. The 4 yugas are the Satya Yuga, the Treta, the Dvarpa, and the Kali. And we are technically in the Kali Yuga. One thing that I did come up with through this research, which was not in this book, is who came up with this? Where did this even begin? This came from the astronomer and mathematician Aryabhata. He was born in 476 CE. He finished his book about this cycles of time in 499 CE. So basically he said that when the 3 yugas, the Satya, the Treta, and the Dvarpa have elapsed, which was 36,000 years of the Kali has already passed, I am now 23 years old. So he's the one who came up with this. And in Hindu cosmology, they view time as a cycle. In Western culture, we view time as linear, or some of you do. I personally believe in this philosophy, and whether you disagree or agree with it, this information is very interesting. So without further ado, we're going to basically get into it, and we're going to start out with just talking about what linear time is for people who don't really think about that. And linear time refers to the view of time as a straight line that moves in a continuous manner. And in Western culture, they believe in a linear view of time, and that linear view of time allows you to progress and also learn your own individualism, I guess. Time is viewed as something that goes from past to present to future with no repetition or return to the previous moments. And cyclical time refers to the view where time repeats itself in cycles or patterns. And this concept is more commonly found in Eastern cultures, and it reflects an emphasis on harmony and interconnectedness with nature. In this way, events repeat themselves over and over again without an end point or a final destination. Understanding these 2 distinct concepts help us to put ourselves in the shoes of another culture. We're about to basically explore the fascinating world of how we perceive and measure the passing of time from ancient cultures all the way until modern day today, time is an essential concept that has been studied by not only various fields of philosophy, physics, psychology, it's also studied throughout the history of the world. The importance of time in different cultures also varies greatly. So some societies think that time should be used to prioritize leisure and relaxation. And that's something that is practiced very heavily in Italy, if you didn't remember when we last talked about how time there goes by a lot slower. Or also in Mexico, we said that public transits are never on time. People are never on time for appointments. It's just a slow culture. America is not a slow culture. You show up to your dentist appointment more than 15 minutes late, they're like, get out of here, you gotta reschedule. It's probably very common in those places.
Yeah. It's definitely gonna happen to you if you're late in America.
Mm-hmm. Older generations in the Western and Eastern cultures do tend to appreciate a more slower paced lifestyle, and they have more of an emphasis on quality rather than the quantity of things. But especially in this younger generation, we want quick gratification. We want it now. We're not going to watch a TikTok if it's going to take 10 minutes to explain something that somebody else could explain in 2. That's just how we are. We're quick. We want our information quick. We want our food quick. As we delve into this concept of time, one characteristic of linear time is that linear time is irreversible, so it can never be regained or repeated. Linear time is progressive. Each moment builds upon the previous one, leading to the next. And linear time is also objective, and it depends on your independent human perception of the human experience. Historical examples of cyclical time are known in Hindu and Mayan culture specifically, who believes in the cycles of creation and destruction, birth and rebirth, death and renewal. And this is a major contrast to linear's undirectional movement towards an endpoint. So moving on to cyclical time, this is a perspective that, as we said, involves repeating patterns and cycles. I mean, that's why it's known as cyclical time. Some characteristics can be traced back to the Babylonians, the Egyptians, the Mayans. They had cyclical calendars based on astronomical observations to mark the solstices, the equinoxes, eclipses. These events were marked with an initiation of this is a new cycle, and it's leading up to something better, or it's leading up to something worse. You'll notice how our perception of the passage of time can vary depending on if you view it as a straight line or if you view it as a repeating cycle. Personally, I can't say personally. Personably,
What's your word?
that is my new word. Believe that time has this kind of like interconnectedness with all things, and that we are part of something larger, and that there is no end. I believe that after we die, I believe that we're not just in the ground and we're just dormant. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. Energy is infinite. So the only way for me to look at it is when we die, our energy is transferred to something else. And I don't know if that's plants. I don't know if we wake up in a new body as another baby. I don't know where we go. But I believe that I guess a lot of people, especially people who are atheist, they believe that when you die, you die. That's it. But I believe that because energy cannot be either created or destroyed, it has to be transferred to something else. So I believe that when we die, our energy is transferred, or our consciousness goes somewhere else, and we are still us, but in a different way. And I feel like this has to deal with like the cycles of time as well. So the way that you view time shapes the way that you live your life. So some people don't give a fuck about what they do because they're like, "Oh, I'm going to die anyway. Who cares? Like, why would I want to go on vacation? I'm going to die anyway."
A lot of people that think like that.
Yeah, some people think like, "This is it. I'm just going to work until I die." And that's just and you think that when you die, you're just going to just go into the ground and become dirt? I believe that we are all something much more, and I believe that we reincarnate. I don't know what
Each time you come back, there's a lesson to be learned for your soul. This lady was having a lecture of this video I watched, and she basically said, when you're this soul, you pick your parents, and it's like that's why you're like, oh, I didn't get easy parents, but there's a reason why you have the harder parents, because there's something for you to learn at the end of it, and it's also something for them, like the parents. Like it was this weird this lady was talking about how the energy, the soul, it picks its parents to learn a task, a greater task, and then each time there's a something to be learned out of it, basically.
I've heard that too. And something that I did read through this research is they say that, or people who believe in this kind of stuff, they believe that the earth is a school for consciousness. So you're not made to just be here to do nothing. You're here to evolve. You're here to learn. You're here to gain more knowledge.
You have a purpose,
yeah,
in life, whether you know it or not, basically, and it's up to you to figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Some people are way more in tune than others. I remember specifically my college boyfriend had said to me that he does not believe that there's a purpose in life. He became an atheist. We went to a Christian college at the time, and he really confronted me and said, "How can you believe this stuff?" And for a time, I really disregarded it, and I did not believe it. I didn't believe in Christianity. I didn't believe in any higher power. I didn't believe that time was a circle. I didn't believe that we had any purpose. And it really made me very reckless, and it made me very selfish. I mean, this was like 6 or 7 years ago. Through all of this time, I have become more aware that yes, there is another energy that exists in the universe that is higher than us, and that we are connected to a source of some kind. But what that source specifically is, I don't know. Call it God, call it Buddha, call it whatever you want to call it. I feel like all of those are connected to the same thing.
They are. I think it's really just to give you a name for it. Like each person wants someone who's different, but in reality, they're all the same person to you. Like someone to talk to.
Yeah.
A higher being.
There was something that Kendrick just said in one of his songs that I want to bring up. Okay, I'm going to read this excerpt from Kendrick Lamar's song on his recent album, GNX. It's called Reincarnated. And this is a conversation that Kendrick is having with God. And I find this so fascinating. I've listened to this song like 100 times at least. It says, "Tell me every deed that you've done and what you do it for." He replies, "I kept up 100 institutions paid." "Okay, tell me more." "I put 100 hoods on one stage." "Okay, tell me more." "I'm trying to push peace in LA." And he replies, "But you love war." "No, I don't." "Yes, you do." "Okay, tell me the truth." "Every individual is only a version of you. How can you forgive when there's no forgiveness in your heart? I can tell you where I'm going. I can tell you who you are." That gives me chills! Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Like, every individual is only a version of you. How can you forgive when there's no forgiveness in your heart? And then the next part goes,
So what do you depict out of that?
I think...
You're better at interpreting than me.
I feel like people live in a very selfish view of the world, and we're very self-centered, and we don't treat others the way that we want to be treated all the time. There's times where we get frustrated at the person in the drive-thru. We get frustrated with somebody at our work who keeps talking and we don't want to hear them talk anymore. We are all the same people though. We all have the same feelings in just different forms. And something also that I heard yesterday is everybody has narcissistic tendencies, but the way that these narcissistic tendencies manifest in people are all different. So there can be somebody who's a complete narcissist, does not care for anybody but themselves. And then there can be someone like me who has, let's say, a narcissistic moment where I don't care how anybody else is feeling. But if I were to, in those moments, maybe just like kind of scale back and be like, every person is only a version of me. Like, they're not trying to hurt me or anything. Like, sometimes my anxious brain feels like I'm being attacked or that I need to, like, escape a situation, and it's not even bad. It's just my anxious brain, like, making it worse than it is.
But that makes you a narcissist quality? Have a narcissistic quality? I don't think that does, though.
So, okay, like, a narcissistic quality is something that it manifests in a way of, like, you're not thinking about anybody else but yourself. But I guess maybe I'm not coming up with, like, a great example of it. But it was something that I read yesterday because I was reading about narcissism because I'm reading about it.
It's I get it because it says that some people that are narcissists may have a form of a sociopath may have either vice versa. Basically, you can have qualities of something that you're not fully.
Yes, and I feel like they're saying that like there's this article is basically saying that there's really bad qualities in every human, but the way that these bad qualities manifest is all depending on us. So I don't even know how we got on all of that, but anyways, sorry. I guess it's because I was talking about Kendrick, but which, by the way, you should listen to the song "Reincarnated" by Kendrick. It's literally beautiful. But we're gonna go into very quickly some questions that people probably have about cultures that do follow cyclical time. So in these other cultures that follow this type of cyclical time rather than linear, they believe in festivals, rituals, mythology, folklore, philosophy, and it all plays a cultural tradition in their beliefs. And in Hinduism, they say that the universe moves through an endless cycle of creation, preservation, and destruction, and then rebirth. And the Mayans also believe the same thing, which they believe that each cycle of time lasts about 5,125 years. So they actually do festivals in Mexico every year for this cycle of time. And the Chinese New Year also represents a cycle of time. The traditions remind us that even though there is birth and death in life, there's also rebirth. A lot of our decisions and actions are greatly influenced by if we feel like time is a cycle or if we feel like time is linear. Managing time can be challenging since in linear time, you may not have like a super strict schedule or deadlines, but this does not mean that you're not going to be like productive or goal setting or saying that setting a goal is going to be impossible. But if you believe that time is linear, after you create a goal and you achieve it, you're almost kind of like, okay, like what other, like now I need to replace this goal with another goal. Like I've reached my goal, I guess. You know what I mean?
So if it weren't to be linear, then what would it be?
I guess you would just have like a different view about your goals, is what it's saying. So this is
I need the Becca dumbed down to Kyla version because sometimes I overthink what you say and big words confuse me. I'm serious.
So
I need your depiction like you do with the readings.
So I guess people who believe in cyclical time kind of believe in more of like an natural ebb and flow to life rather than trying to like force everything by having like this kind of like structured living, if that makes sense. So people who have like linear time are always like, they're like setting goals to achieve them, whereas people who believe in cyclical time are kind of more like, like, yes, I'm in the flow of life. Yes, I have goals, but they're not going to like I guess be as stringent on themselves or be as hard on themselves as people who just believe that like, if I don't achieve this goal before I die, then what's the point?
I get it. Okay, I get it now.
So, this is all from different articles that I pulled about what people believe about linear time and cyclical time. What are some consequences of only believing in linear time? Some consequences of this creates a constant pressure to be productive and to achieve more in less time. This mindset leads to burnout, stress, and feeling like our worth is tied to our productivity. If you embrace a cyclical time awareness, it allows you to see the value in rest, reflection, renewal.
Basically, there's more to life than just your goals. Like,
Yeah.
there's more to life than just trying to achieve something, I guess.
Mhm.
Because
And I feel like
with that, you have to do other things for yourself too for it to come.
like I feel like the average person has goals, whether they are little goals
Like,
such as
clean my house today.
yeah, I'm gonna make sure the dishes are washed every day. I'm gonna make sure my laundry's all caught up. I'm sorry, but that's not something that I practice.
If you have ADHD brain like me, you'll learn that you can't give yourself one too many tasks because then none will get done. It's like I'll be like, just this, because if not, it happens a lot. It's okay.
Yeah,
I'm ADHD.
yeah, and I'm the same way. I'm also very highly ADHD. And by recognizing that time moves in cycles rather than a straight line, you start to appreciate the natural rhythms of life and you work with them rather than against them. So, here's kind of something that I feel about cyclical time, especially when it comes to the seasons, because I live in an area where we do experience all four seasons in some way.
Do we? At this point, I don't know anymore.
So, we live in Ohio, where if you don't like the weather, just wait 15 minutes because it's about to change. So, I believe that, especially when it comes to winter, because I used to have this very, let's just say I used to have a very bad attitude about winter for the longest time. I used to think that winter was so restricting that it makes me not want to do anything. It makes me, very tired, and sometimes I find it harder to achieve my goals. But I'm not as hard on myself because what do the animals do when it's this cold out? They're hibernating, they're resting, they're renewing their bodies for the summer and springtime. And if we were to go hard all year long, 12 months a year, nonstop, outside, just never stopping, like our batteries would, like, when would we have a recharge? And when it's really nice out, this is something that I do, I feel guilty. If it's like over 60 degrees outside and I'm stuck inside and I'm cleaning, my brain is like, what are you doing? I need to go outside. It's a nice day. Why am I not spending this outside? Like, why am I not going on a walk with my dogs and whatever? And in the wintertime, when it's, 6 degrees outside and the wind chill is like 15 miles an hour, you ain't going on a walk. You ain't going on a hike.
You might.
No, I don't. No.
Yes, you would.
Not that cold, no.
No, you'd be like, I'm gonna do it. You'd be sending me a little video. I'd be like looking at your location. I'm like, what is she doing at 10 a.m. at East Fork when it fucking just snowed? No, I'm just saying I can see you doing it. You can say you wouldn't, but don't tell me that you wouldn't one day.
I do like
random.
to maybe once or twice in the winter go on a winter hike, but if it's like 20 or 30 degrees though, I'm not going if it's like 10, 12 degrees. Holy shit, no.
You never know with you.
Mm-mm. No. I do be random and spontaneous, but not spontaneous.
I ain't nothing like that. I'll tell you what, I'd be like, you're so.
Well, I like to think of winter as a time to rest and renew, and I'm not as hard on myself when it comes to my goals because I know that like this is a time of rest. I'm going to be moving into spring very soon in like a month. We're going to be in this
Technically,
spring.
they say it already is spring, or like one more week left of winter, so.
Yeah. And I would hope so because I would.
I think winter is a good time for me to fucking chill. Now that I travel so much and I actually have things that I want in life, and my purpose is to go see the world and meet people to teach me stuff, that's what my purpose is right now. Yeah, I definitely need winter to recharge, for sure, and do nothing and lay around and sleep. I feel lazy, of course, but I think I need it.
So, I feel like seasonal depression is a thing. I feel like there are certainly people who experience seasonal depression.
Last year was bad for me. This year wasn't really anything, but last year I was fucking depressed for sure.
I feel like the people that I was hanging around at the time, they made me almost so energy transfer is real. If you hang around people who complain all the time, you're going to complain all the time. That's just a fact of life. You are who you hang around. And the people who I was hanging around at the time were always complaining to me about winter. They were always saying, you know, oh, like I hate winter. It gives me that seasonal depression. It makes me this or that. And it finally took me so long to realize, I think it was when I was pregnant, that I realized that I need to just stop complaining about the winter. It's my mindset. It's the winter's not going to change. The winter is winter. It is my mindset that needs to change about the winter. It is a time to it is a time to relax. It is a time to renew and get ready for springtime. And it's what the animals do. It's nature itself. So,
Well, like instead of saying I'm bored, I learned this. Actually, I think I saw something like this morning. What if the I'm bored is like a form of mind manipulation? Like them getting your, like, oh my god, what did I fucking see?
you're saying that we're manipulated to be bored? Is that what you're saying?
Like a form of our boredom is their way of controlling our brains. I literally watched this video this morning. It's so funny. Tell me how I always find stuff on TikTok. But it's from a movie. Okay, it's actually from a movie. I found it. And basically it's saying that this boredom that we create within ourselves is a form of brainwashing. And in a sense, not like slavery, but like we're doing this all to ourselves, but we're keeping ourselves within the society. Like we're letting it be the way it is.
No,
I can't describe stuff well.
no. So it's the government controlling humans indirectly.
Without us knowing it, like we're doing it to ourselves. Like they're basically don't have to do lobotomy like they would back then. They basically just did something and they set it out for us to create a society that doesn't think for themselves or have feelings.
It's the Matrix, and that's what. So this is what my uncle thinks about the Matrix. My uncle.
I don't even remember watching that movie. I don't remember what it's about.
The Matrix.
Yeah.
It's about people who like wake up and realize that they're just being controlled by.
I don't remember that movie. I know it's a huge movie, but I've never cared to watch it as an adult, so I need to watch it again.
You do. It's.
Super... I always because you know from like it looks stupid from like a video like this. I'm okay. Listen, from what I've learned from TikTok is I'll see a screen from a movie. From what I've learned, you can't judge a book by its cover or a movie title by its cover because it could be the weirdest looking movie title or movie like picture and be the best movie ever. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I will have to watch it. I always just thought it looked weird because of the green and black. I'm serious. I don't. The dude with the black jacket. I just didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what it was about. I've never known what it was about. Oh, I thought it was just like I thought it was like Men in Black or something.
No, you should. It's much better than that. It's much better.
But that's what I was thinking. The like agents or something.
The concept of
like an agent, not like time. Okay, well that fucked with me.
So, when it comes to the Matrix, this is what my uncle thinks about it. My uncle thinks very much that the Matrix is real and that we are all living in it. And he does not have any form of social media. He will not use it. He said the social media is the Matrix. Because if you are constantly on social media, you are constantly being influenced by whatever algorithm you have set for yourself. So if you love your algorithm and you love all the videos that you click, then if you're glued to your phone all the time, he says you're in the Matrix. You're just another robot in society. And he says that a lot of people who are on social media don't think for themselves and they think whatever comes onto their algorithm is true and it influences their way of thinking, which yes, in a certain way I agree with it.
So I mean like this movie, this is from a movie clip that I seen. But so I guess I'm being influenced by these videos, but these are very informal videos. It's not like some, I don't know.
No, everybody's algorithm is different and I have a lot of on my TikTok, I have like a lot of like beauty things. I also have a lot of conspiracy theories.
I don't always. That was a very random video. I don't get those often.
And exactly tell what movie it is. But it is basically just saying it was a clip talking about how humanity itself is basically trained to be robots of some kind, whether we know it or not, and that was the ultimate goal. And it's actually called My Dinner with Andre, which is a movie from 1981, which I've never seen this movie. Wallace Shawn and Andre Gregory.
It says you can watch it on Max.
Ew. I will watch this later. That really seems like a really eye-opening movie, but we're getting off the topic here. But we are in some way controlled by the media, in a way. It can control us in a way of like fear-mongering, or some people just don't believe what's in the media at all. My uncle's one of those people. He doesn't believe, like, he doesn't listen to the media. He says that the media is just another form of mind control.
I just thought I was having deja vu because every morning for the past week it was snowing. And I had the same sounds of the snow on my feet. And I walked outside every morning and it was snowing all last week. And I said, I feel like I'm in a fucking simulation. I told that to my friends at work. It was like 4 days. And I've never ever in my life remember fucking it snowing. And it was the same amount of snow, very light. I've never ever, I don't remember any of that ever happening. Like, we don't ever have that type of snow. And then it would just quit. It would be every morning, right out here.
Yeah, it did feel like deja vu. I was over it by day 3, dude.
I liked it, but it felt like this wasn't real. I felt like someone was making this shit happen. I was like, I feel like I'm in a big fucking fake simulation like the Truman Show.
Chemtrails. Why else do you think all these chickens are dying from the bird flu? You think that's not intentional? Because I fucking think it is. Why else would eggs be $6 for a 12 pack?
It's a little bit cheaper at Aldi.
It's like $5.
83.
Yeah.
I know, I was making a joke.
Dude, this bird flu thing, I feel like it is fucking intentional. I feel like the chemtrails have been way heavier lately.
At this point, we're all just older now, and we are knowledge, and maybe it just sucks because we know now. We know!
Well, I'm going to read this excerpt from the book, Yuga Shift. As per the Yuga cycle doctrine, there are 4 yugas in declining consciousness that each follow each other. There's the Satya, which is the Golden Age. There's the Tetra, which is the Silver Age, the Dvarpa, which is the Bronze Age, and the Kali, which is the Iron Age. That's where we are in right now. The events described in the Indian epic of the Mahabharata, I don't know, I can't pronounce it, I'm sorry. It had basically transpired towards the end of the Dvarpa Yuga. By this time, consciousness had diminished substantially, and greed had basically went to very high levels. This fueled divisions of anger and hatred in society, and this mindset, in tandem with the powerful weapons of many warriors had acquired by propitiating the gods and sages, triggered destructive battles from cycles of time to the next cycle of time. So the term yuga originates from a Sanskrit word, and it basically signifies that each period of time is characterized by different traits, behaviors, and conditions of a spiritual nature, and that all of these factors are in direct correlation with our humanity. One of the good things about this is that there's always going to be a rebirth period. There's also going to be a time when life is so advanced and that people work together and are peaceful. They live longer, they care about each other, and that life isn't about money. But we are not in that cycle of time, as you already know, because if you're listening to this, that sounds like a dream.
That's supposed to be the next cycle, right? Maybe.
Yep, it is. We are actually in the worst cycle of time right now, and we will get into that as we go along. Each cycle of time is known for its distinct characteristics. The Satya Yuga is known for its virtue, truth, and righteousness. So it's basically saying that like people don't have like ulterior motives against each other. They work together. People are kind. People aren't selfish. The Tetra Yuga is known for establishment of rituals and divine avatars, such as Buddha, Jesus Christ, Lord Kalki. That's the coming savior of it's either the Hopi Indians or the Hindu culture. I might be mixing them up, sorry. The Dvarpa Yuga is known for its duality, complex human relationships, and external conflicts. So a lot of the conflicts that are going on are not internal, but they're happening around people, and it's happening to them in a way. And the Kali Yuga is characterized by its moral decline and spiritual darkness. That's where we are right now. The Satya Yuga is the first yuga, which is, as I said, it's the golden age. Humans lived with nature during this time. They lived in harmony with each other. They were honest, compassionate, and loving. They worked together in unity. And key figures during this era are the divine incarnation of Lord Vishnu, known as the fish. Major events such as the cosmic creation of our Earth and establishment of the universe was taking place during this time. So this is the time when in the Bible it says, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. That's this time that it's talking about. Whether you believe that or not, it's just an example. The Tetra Yuga is known for the beginning of rituals and ceremonies that govern human life. This age witnessed the coming of spiritual avatars such as Lord Rama and the hero of the Ramayana, who embodies basically Dharma and righteousness. So, Dharma is the key concept for Indian religions such as Hinduism, Buddhism, and there's a few others. It is understood that it refers to the behaviors which are in harmony with the order and customs that sustain life. It is known as the human virtue, righteousness, religious or moral duties. So, basically these things have to do with their, virtues, law and justice, rituals, duties such as learning from a teacher, and yoga. So it has some history with the Vedic religions, which was from 1500 to 500 BCE, and we could go into that so much more. There's so much to unpack with that, but I just kind of wanted to give a quick overview to people who don't know what Dharma is. The purpose of the Tetra Yuga was to maintain societal order and harness spiritual growth. The Dvarpa Yuga is known for its conflicts. Nations and kingdoms arise, and there is also increased conflict. Significant events during this time have been known to be world wars. Let's just put it that way. Or when there's many wars happening at the same time in different parts of the world. Then there is the Kali Yuga, which is the current age we are in right now, and it is known as the Age of Darkness. It is known for its increased dishonesty, corruption, spiritual ignorance, apathy, and basically the fragmentation of relationships and communities. Beliefs and prophecies surrounding this suggest that there will be a great cataclysmic event, followed by the eventual restoration of the Satya Yuga, and the prophecies suggest that Lord Kalki will come restore balance to the universe. So there is this belief that basically a lot of these religions believe that Jesus is going to be coming back one day, or in the Chinese culture, I think that they believe that like the blue dragon will return, and I don't know, I think it's associated with some type of avatar. There's other ones that I can't think of, but there are many religions that believe that there's going to be like a returning savior that's going to come save their people. And that's not a new thing. This is something that's happened all throughout time. The nature of the yugas is offering profound lessons here, whether you agree with it or not. The complete Yuga cycle is 24,000 years in length, and the timeline indicates that the ascending Kali Yuga, which is the current epoch that we're in right now, will end in 2025. And guess what? That date was February 5th, 2025. That was the end of the beginning of our transition period that we're going to get into. So transition periods are 300 years. So basically, every 2,700 years, that's when the cycle is going to be in a 300-year transition period at that 2,700 mark. which is what we just hit in 2025.
That doesn't have anything to do with the poles, right?
Would
it?
We will get into that.
I'm just curious because of what I learned recently of how they shifted.
Yes.
So I didn't know if that's like the same thing. Do you get what I mean though?
So there are prophecies that have stated that the poles will shift during this time, and we will actually get into that as we go along. There are actually people who have predicted.
Well, I thought that it already happened.
Yes. So a lot of people didn't used to believe that
Someone said that it happened in like really like a couple months ago.
So according to the AI overview on Google, yes, the Earth's magnetic north pole has been steadily shifting, moving rapidly towards Siberia in the recent decades, meaning that it has significantly shifted from its previous location, which used to be in the Canadian Arctic. But this shift is a gradual process, and I guess some people think that this is like a sudden shift, but this is something that happens throughout time. And yes, so the poles are currently shifting as we speak. They're always going to be shifting. I mean, we are on a space rock floating through space, so...
Damn, that girl be making it seem like it did its thing a couple months ago, and that's what...
Now we're going to get into historical evidences. So, when it comes to historical evidence, the Hopi Indians believed that there are 5 worlds, okay, that we are basically in the 4th world going into the 5th world, and they believe that it was either the end of the 3rd or the 4th world. Their people talk about a great flood that happened, and this flood is also proof of the end of an age. So they say that by the end of each age, there's some cataclysmic event that begins the 300-year transition period, and the transitional periods between the yugas are associated with the collapse of civilizations and environmental catastrophes, which wipe out virtually the face of certain human civilizations. The new civilization that emerges in the new yuga is guided by a few survivors of the cataclysm who carry with them technical and spiritual knowledge of the previous
The Hopi believe that the time cycles through world ages and that humans have lived through 3 previous world cataclysms, and they believe that the destruction of each world was caused by human misdeeds such as greed, fighting, and forgetting to honor the earth. They believe that the faithful are saved from destruction and emerge to populate the next world, believing that the end of the current world will come in form of earthquakes. Also believing that the future depends on whether humans behave in accordance with the Creator's plans.
So basically they're saying that the people who are evil are not going to advance to the next cycle, is what they're saying. They're saying that the people who are good in heart, they're going to advance to the next.
And then that blue star, said to be the 9th and final sign before the day of purification, described as the apocalypse or engulfing cataclysm.
The blue star Kachina is basically I think that it is an avatar, but in other interpretations, people think that it's referring to a falling star.
And you said the flood, there was also ice and fire, so you have the Ice Age, Noah's Ark, and then the fire was probably the meteor. So...
yeah. I truly believe in these cycles of time as we get into more of the historical evidence, but basically...
yeah, you're right, a spirit being who will bring about a great time of great purification and transformation of the earth. Which is the blue star Kachina. It's a great star being. So yeah, what you said. I mean, you just said that.
Yeah. Yeah, the blue star Kachina.
Well, you said that. You said like a higher form of power.
I couldn't remember if it was specifically an avatar or...
So you said like a being. That's really what it would be, is a being.
So that's their savior, I guess, to come eradicate the evil from the earth, basically. And many ancient sources tell us that the 7 sages, who are said to appear at the beginning of every yuga, are basically there to promulgate the arts of civilization. So there have been multiple cultures who have said that there have been people that have been there to teach them things. So in Egyptian culture, they said that there were beings that came down from the stars that taught them how to grow wheat, how to make bread, how to get fresh water, things like that. So at the end of every age, they're saying that there are people that come down and help the people who are left from the last age. And we find this in they say it's a myth, in Sumerian, Indian, Polynesian, South American, and North American cultures. So this is not something that's just restricted to one continent. This is something that is found all around the world, which why would there be different cultures who have no contact with each other saying the same thing? That's why I believe this so much, because all of the evidence is pointing to this being true. They say that these beings that would come down at the end of these ages possessed infinite wisdom and power, and they could travel over land and water with various forms of basically vehicles, and they could leave at will. So they could stay here on the planet, they could go back up to the stars, and they could come back. So I I mean, I don't know if we've had somebody like this occur during the end of the Dwarpa. Actually, it was Jesus who was one of the prophets during that time, who was said to come and make the world like a better place for people.
Yeah.
So actually, I was wrong about that. So, excuse me, I'm drinking. But the cataclysmic transitions and human degeneration of the Younger Dryas and the Greek Dark Ages, this is when people are shorter and smaller brained. There's also the end of the Ice Age. There's mythological tales that describe a flood. Not a lot of Western culture doesn't teach about the flood, but I personally believe that the flood did happen. So when I say he, I'm talking about Bibu. He's the one who wrote this book. So he particularly notes that there is a storm of meteors or comets, and he connects this transition with the 6676 to 6976 BC transitions between the Tetra and the Dwarpa, which was a collapse of the ice sheet. It was called the Laurentide ice sheet, and it flooded the Black Sea. So this was one of the causes of the flood. There was also a time that the climate changed drastically and it dried up parts of the earth, such as the Sahara Desert. That was the Bronze Age, and this was the collapse between the Kali Yugas that suggest that there were meteors that hit Earth, and it wasn't just one, there was multiple. He discusses that there are longer lifespans in the other yugas, so that's just a factor. There is also something that he notes, that there is diminishing height and shrinking of the brain during each yuga. And ours specifically has the lowest brain capacity. And that's something I'm going to touch up on in a little bit.
Sucks. Why the fuck did I get screwed? I mean, obviously, maybe I'm another being and soul in the next life, but right now, all I remember is being stuck in this time, and what the hell?
Yeah, I don't. I consider myself smart in other ways, but I don't consider myself a genius by any means.
Not even being a genius, it's just being intact with your higher self.
Yeah, they say that the human only accesses what, like 10 to 15% of their brain.
Yeah, like what the hell? That's not fair.
It is not fair. They say that on the ascending curve after the transition period, they say that human potential becomes basically unlimited. So the state of human consciousness determines which yuga that we are in. And by human consciousness, we're not talking about just you. We're talking about the collective. Everybody on Earth. Like, where are we at? And we are in a state of corruption, constant division. And I would say that out of all of the ages, we just reading through what the Kali Yuga is, we identify with that more. We are not in a state of peace. We are not in a state of working together. We are in a state of constant division.
Yeah, I can see where they say that ended in the 60s when you were listening to that. I showed you that clip.
Mm-hmm.
The 60s, everyone's like, come together, like.
Come together.
And like all of the big movements, those huge movements. People don't do that stuff like that anymore. Yeah. Like the big like protests that go on for days, that's all you do. Like, fuck a job, you just figure it out. But people are just too worried about, you know what I mean? Like, they don't think like that. I feel like, I don't know.
No, I mean, it's fascinating. When it comes to the end time prophecies, this is a very speculative chapter, but basically he questions what the gods and sages are. And by he, I'm talking about the author of this book. He speculates that the Hopi or Cherokee believe that gods came to Earth from Pleiades, and the radiant, torrid meteor shower from Pleiades is what the gods used to arrive on Earth by landing with comets. So he basically speculates that the gods sleep during the Kali Yugas, so we don't see them. Basically, in Hindu culture, they describe that Kalki is an avatar that is supposed to come back. He is a incarnation of Lord Vishnu, and he will come on a white horse with a blazing sword to reestablish righteousness on earth. And what does that sound like? That sounds like the returning of Jesus. People believe in the rapture, that he's going to come on a white horse. Why is it that in Indian culture and in Christian Western culture, well, actually, Christian culture did not begin in the West, but it began in the East, but it, you know, people used to say that we're a Christian nation, not that we are anymore. I'm not dissing Christians at all, by the way. I'm just comparing that in Hinduism, they believe that Lord Kalki is going to return on a white horse. They say that Jesus is going to return on a white horse. Do you not see the similarity here? Like, it's incredible. These cultures didn't have access to each other at the time. So how could they come up with this? But I'm getting lost in the sauce here.
Hey, that's okay.
Oh, it's literally right in front of my face. So the anticipated savior, the second coming of Christ, the Hopi blue star Kachina, the Hopi white brother Pahiana, the red star Kachina, all of these kind of coincide with the exact same thing in multiple different cultures. Basically, there are people who have prophesied about future events who have accessed this Akashic record, or call it whatever you want. They've accessed something, and they have been very correct in their predictions. So basically, there's going to be a great conjunction of planets on September 8th, 2040 in Aries and Libra, and the author thinks that the comets in the Taurid swarm are going to be activated, which cause basically some sort of insanity. It's going to cause hysteria. In the year 2040, the end of the entire descending Yuga cycle begins the new beginning of the 1200-year period of Echipyrosis, which is basically the Great Summer or the Great Year. Survivors during the Kali Yuga will inherit a transformed planet, almost like interdimensional gateways may open up. They may be able to reveal new realities that have been long forgotten. We must learn how to survive and realign, basically. And something that can help you raise your consciousness, which if you don't know this already, it's a very basic thing that you can do. It's meditating. And meditating for somebody with ADHD, it's pretty hard. It's very hard for me to sit still for even 15 minutes and just no phone, no noise, just sit. Sit with your thoughts. Meditating is very hard for me. I feel like it's just hard during our age.
It's hard. It is hard. It's so fun.
The 15-year window from 2025 to 2040 is when it will start to happen. Our world was meant to serve as a school of progressive evolution of consciousness, and that purpose has been completely overturned in the course of our long journey. Basically, there are some people who disagree with that for school being a progressive evolution for consciousness. But I do just want to touch up on the author really quick. For some people who think that, maybe this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Bibu Dev Misra is a researcher and has been researching the writings of ancient civilizations and the mysteries of the past for more than 10 years now. He is a regular contributor to magazines such as The New Dawn, Nexus, Mysterious Universe, and GrahamHancock.com. He's appeared on multiple podcasts. He references Ancient Earth, Portal to Ascension. He basically is somebody he's not researching and writing this because he has to. He does this because he wants to. One of his favorite things to do is to travel to ancient sites, to write about them and to research them. He loves to play cricket with his son, read books about ancient mysteries. He loves long walks and he practices yoga every day. He is also an engineer and he has worked with information technology consultation for actually more than 20 years now. And I guess this is his first book, so I guess this is his debut novel. Debut. So our last transitional period ended in 676 BCE. And our next transitional period has already begun in 2025. And that transitional period is set to end in 2325. So that's the end of the transition period. So we are just starting out. The first transitional period after the Golden Age was the Ice Age. And when the Ice Age came to an end, the climate of the entire planet became very warm. This caused the Great Flood. Plato spoke about the mythical land called Atlantis, which was swallowed up by the sea in a single day of misfortune. And the Great Flood was noted by many ancient cultures. They speak about heavy rain and fire raining down from the sky, followed by intense, cold periods and long periods of darkness. Brian Mess in a laboratory in New Mexico examined 175 so-called flood myths from different cultures around the world. Western culture does not accept that there was a flood. They just don't. But I do. Like, go to the freaking Grand Canyon.
It's crazy we're classified as Western culture.
Yeah.
Because this is... Okay, sorry, off topic. I was just looking at, North Korea shit. Jeans are completely banned because it's a westernized thing in North Korea. You cannot wear jeans. And there's so many laws. If you don't dust off the picture that's hanging off on the wall of the great... You can get jail time. Dude, there's so many fucked up laws there. And I just learned about this other day about North Korea.
Wow.
But yeah, so basically and you keep saying Western eyes like this, blah, blah, blah. So we're the Western because, they don't believe in jeans because we were the creator of jeans. So they don't let them wear it. They don't let them wear it because we're
Guess if I ever go to South Korea, I ain't wearing jeans.
No, North Korea, where you can't go.
Oh, okay.
King Jong-un. No, yeah. King Jong-un. Now people in there could probably wear jeans. No, North Korea.
Oh my god.
Kun Jong-un. Pum. The interview. I'm just kidding.
Well, I know that North Korea is also like very heavily monitored and people can't escape and
They're not allowed to leave. They don't get passports. Only the people that are richer get phones. They don't get access to that kind of stuff. I was just looking up videos like it really is real where they make fake things. They only like when you want to visit, which you can. America just doesn't want you to do it. You're allowed to visit. But the government will set up the tour for you and they will show you what they want you to see and they will let you record, but it's only what they want you to record. So you can't talk to a local. You're not allowed to.
You could probably be arrested.
Like because of like what they could you don't know because you've heard how they don't get fed well and just a bunch of stuff. Like if you look at South Korea and North Korea, you got tall skyscrapers and then you got little huts. So it's just the way that they're just kind of back in time. Yeah, and they're stuck. They said this woman has a story that you have to look her up. You can look her up. She's very well known. She's talked to Joe Rogan, I guess.
Who is it?
I don't know her name, but she's someone. I just know she's the one very few person who escaped from North Korea. Like she went through the river to like.
Oh, you could probably just look this up.
It's very easy. It's very easy. Like she's like the only one. So.
Wow. 300-year period between the Tetra and the Dvarpa Yuga coincides with the Black Sea catastrophe, which the Black Sea actually used to be the largest freshwater lake in the world. Well, one day the Mediterranean Sea flooded into it, and the Black Sea was just a lake. So it was, I guess, I don't think it was called a Black Lake. I think the Black Sea got its name from when the Mediterranean Sea flooded. But the Black Sea catastrophe is associated with Noah's flood. This major flooding event also happened in multiple other parts of the world. The Hudson Bay was flooding into the Labrador Sea during that time, and this was also the largest flooding event in the Quaternary period, and it raised the global sea level by a half a meter. So that's pretty significant. The transitional period between the Dvarpa and the Kali Yuga is noted for also severe flooding around the world. The Native American Hopi tribe actually retell the story of flooding at the end of the last cycle of time. The flooding of Sumer and the Flandrian transgression. This is the flooding that happened in the Mesopotamian Valley, which triggered the migration of the people in the settlements of Egypt and Mesopotamia and the Indus Valley. The year of world creation according to the Jewish calendar is 3761 BC. This is actually directly in the middle of a transition period. And the next transition period was the Dark Ages. And I feel like everybody learned about the Dark Ages in school. The knights, the people who had went through famines.
The Black Plague.
Yep. There was depopulation. There was mass migration of people.
Which isn't just like a normal term for the Black Plague. It was just like a really bad sickness. It was just like a really bad cold or some shit. Like just because they were like living in their own shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the people didn't know how to be clean.
Basically, it was gonna happen.
They say that during this time, it is known that men violently destroyed women and children and other men in battles or trying to take over other cities and nations. And there were also many abandoned towns and villages during this time due to the amount of people that were killed. And during the Dark Ages, why was it called the Dark Ages? Because a lot of knowledge was kept from the people. It was either lost or forgotten from the last cycle of time. So that's why people became so unknowledgeable, because they didn't have access to learn. There was no access to books. There was no access to people who could teach them how to be clean. Like they were born into this world that was dirty and they didn't know anything else. So I wouldn't say that the Dark Ages was like a brainwashing period, because I feel like the people just ultimately did not have the tools to even know what to do. Like they were just born into a dirty, violent world. And man, like I used to make jokes to my dad. I used to say like, man, I wish that I was born in the Dark Ages. I wouldn't have had to go to school. And he's like, Yeah, well, you probably would have been killed or you would have died for some sort of illness. Like, you don't want to live during that time.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to live then.
No air conditioning, no toilet paper, no tampons.
Free bleeding, baby.
No Chick-fil-A. No, thank you. Like,
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A, it's Sunday and we're recording, and every friggin' Sunday I want Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
What's that?
You know that happens. So.
Basically, every 2,700 years, the Earth goes through some cataclysmic event, and it lasts about 300 years. During that time, there is total collapse of civilization or very close to it. Society rebuilds itself almost instantly after that 300 years. So now we're going to get into something that is super interesting, and we're going to get into a recent prophet, Baba Vanga. Do you know who Baba Vanga is?
Yes.
Do you actually?
Yeah.
You don't. I know about some weird shit, okay? So, Baba Vanga is a mystic and healer that was born in 1911, so fairly recent. She was famous for predicting many future events around the globe, and some people say that her predictions are very vague, but other people say that it's very specific. Baba Vanga predicted the Kursk submarine tragedy in Russia, which was basically a submarine that like sunk to the bottom of the ocean.
The one that's not open and the people are stuck in there?
Mm-hmm.
I just saw about that the other day. What
Yeah.
the fuck?
She predicted that.
I just saw a video of like, it's like someone saying it's so sad knowing that there's this many bodies down there and they were never able to get it open. It was like, it's like right there.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't they get it open? It's right there. It's literally like right up on the surface. Like it ain't deep deep. Like you can look at it like from like a couple foot down and see the door.
Oh my god.
That's the they're like I just like I don't know how this is connecting, but I just saw a video of someone saying it's so sad that all these men or people were in this and like just still here. They're still here.
Oh my god.
The bodies.
Oh.
So yeah, what the hell? How long ago was this?
I don't know exactly when she predicted that.
Did it happen?
The Kursk submarine disaster was a Russian nuclear submarine that sank in an accident on August 12, 2000 in the Barents Sea with the loss of 118 personnel on board. Basically, the submarine was taking part of the first major Russian naval exercise in more than 10 years. Crews of nearby ships felt an initial explosion and then a second, much larger explosion. But the Russian Navy did not release that the accident had occurred and did not initiate search of the vessel for over 6 hours. The submarine's emergency rescue buoy, buoy, had been initially disabled during an earlier mission, and it took more than 16 hours to locate the submarine, which rested on the ocean floor.
Oh, so they get it out then? Maybe I was looking at something else.
Over 4 days, the Russian Navy repeatedly failed its attempts to dive to the bottom and pull it back up. Vladimir Putin initially continued his resort, I guess, over in that area, and had authorized the Russian Navy to accept British and Norwegian assistance only 5 days after it had passed. And basically, they finally opened a hatch to the escape trunk in the boat's flooded 9th compartment, and no survivors were found. But yeah, once you sink to the bottom of the ocean, that pressure from all the water, they say that like you can explode.
I mean, what about that? All those rich people.
The one that happened in the Titanic thing, yeah.
That little tiny submarine they went in.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Where did they go? They
exploded. But she also, and which by the way, this is a very important thing that I forgot to mention. Baba Vanga is blind. She literally has no eyes. So her eyes are like just shriveled, like
the little old lady from Princess and the Frog in the swamp. People are so sweet. Like she's sweet.
Yeah. I mean, she predicted a lot of things, which this is something.
She was more in tune with herself because she lacked one of her senses.
Yep. I believe that people who are missing one sense of their body, I feel like they have some kind of connection to another. So in 1989, she said, you know, this was documented by the people where she lived, which Baba Vanga was born in Dimitrova. And she basically was born in North Macedonia, essentially. She was born prematurely and she had many health complications. She was not born blind. She actually lost her sight at the age of 12 after being caught up in a tornado.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. She attended school for the blind and she learned to read Braille and play piano. She became known for her clairvoyance, healing, and fortune telling, and she became famous in the 70s and 80s for her predictions. So she also predicted things for 2025 specifically. And this has been scaring me since I first heard about her. I learned about Baba Vanga in 2021. And I have known that she has predictions that go all the way until the year 3000. But I specifically was looking for ahead for like what's going to happen in my lifetime. And these are her predictions for 2025. She predicted that a war in Europe would devastate the entire continent and decrease its population significantly.
Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
Ukraine.
Mm-hmm. She predicted an alien invasion will coincide with a major sporting event. The Super Bowl?
What did that?
I'm just kidding. There was no alien invasion in the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl already passed.
Maybe it was an alien invasion and we didn't know it. Maybe they were all dancing and they were aliens invading that fucking dance floor. Just kidding. I'm just
You already know what we think about the halftime show. We loved it. But she did say that there was going to be an alien invasion that will coincide with a major sporting event.
Well, that could be any time. Oh, okay.
She said this year specifically, 2025.
Hmm.
She predicted that in 2025, humans begin to relearn telepathy. And if you have not listened to telepathy tapes, you need to.
I have a friend at my work that has been listening to that too as well.
It's a podcast that will literally change
the
way that
literally
you think.
listened to the dog one too that you did and like exact ones, and I was like, dude, my friend listens to that.
The telepathy tapes is incredible. It's basically saying that mothers specifically have connections to their nonverbal children. This is talking about people who are mentally handicapped. And it's not just mothers. Sometimes these mentally handicapped kids or adults are able to telepathically connect with their teachers at school or their caregivers. And this is something that's happening right now. So let's just say when she predicted that, she was right. It's literally happening right now. She predicted that in 2025, scientists specifically, would be able to simulate organs in a lab. That is actually happening right now. She predicted that in 2033, there will be a major global flooding due to the melting of the polar ice caps, causing a significant shift in frequency at the poles of the Earth, and this will cause massive devastation on all continents. 2033. I ain't gonna live my life in fear until 2033, but it also makes me wonder, maybe I should start preparing.
Well, if there is something that happens, what are you going to prepare for if it's all going to get blown up anyway?
Not that it's going to get blown up, it's saying that there's going to be massive flooding. Which...
Okay, so if someone were to have a bunker and have all this food saved up, it's just going to get fucking washed away.
No, I'm not saying stocking up with food.
That's what
I'm saying.
But that's what I thought of, because that's what I would think about if we were all to be in a world, where we don't get food and it's not normal, where you have to fend for yourself and all that crap, naked and afraid type shit, right? I always wondered, what would happen? Everybody's gonna go crazy. I already know it.
Eric told me yesterday that he was like, why would I want to survive the apocalypse? He was like, I don't even want to survive if we're out of toilet paper and then I go to try to find paper towels and we have no paper towels.
Maybe because you'll have more reason to live if there's an apocalypse instead of working in this society that we're in.
For the 300-year transition, the first 150 years, which is labeled as the twilight of the Kali, is known when structures of society will collapse, and this is the structures such as governments, They will collapse due to a combination of wars and environmental disasters and cosmic shifts. And the second 150-year period during that 300-year transition period. So the first 150 years is known as like very hard. The other 150 years is known as the dawn of the Dwarpa, which is the time when spiritually evolved people who have survived will use their philosophy to better society, and this will also lead to the collapse of the rest of the world governments that remain. And people will begin to work together to better civilization as a whole. Money is not going to be a thing anymore during this time. There's going to be no such thing as currency or money. Nobody's going to be working. We're going to be trying to survive.
That would be dope, honestly. I don't even know why. Why? We could just, it'd be all free and we would be fine. I don't get what's the point of it. In reality, nothing would happen if I don't get it. It's all fake, I feel like. I don't get it.
The government? Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me.
The government's fake.
But just the idea of, having to pay for things and people creating them when reality, things can be made and then you could trade and, the idea of all that crap just makes more sense.
It's literally something that was made up, and it's not something that the way life used to be. In the Dark Ages, do you really think that there were people going around being like, hey, rent is due, throw it in this hat, you owe, this much money? No, people freaking lived in huts, they got their food, they got their water, and they tried their best to survive. They didn't have freaking rent.
They weren't taxed.
Yeah. Yeah, they weren't taxed out the ass like Americans. Jesus Christ.
That stupid Boston Tea Party did. Just kidding.
Yeah. When it comes to the transition period, our transition period started on February 5th, 2025. So we are just starting. Then there was somebody named Edgar Casey who he basically had these predictions that he had got through the Akashic records. And this is the best way for me to explain it. Imagine having a computer system that kept track of every event, every thought, image, desire that anyone ever had that transpired on the earth. Imagine as well that rather than simply a compilation of written data and words, this system is like countless videotapes of film and pictures that a viewer can witness, and almost like an eyewitness account of that event without being in that historical time frame. Imagine that this enormous database not only kept track of this information from an objective perspective, but it also maintained the perspectives and the emotions of every individual during that period. So you could go back to the Akashic records and you'd be viewing it still the same, but from a different perspective. Manner. And Edgar Casey said that this is a fairly accurate representation of the Akashic records. Edgar Casey is the most documented psychic of all time in the 20th century. He was a 20th century mystic who helped thousands of people with his intuitive abilities. And over 40 years, Casey would give readings, psychic dissertations, using the Akashic records as his primary source of information, and he had many prophecies of what is to come. When there is the thought or activity of the body in a particular environment, this makes impressions on the soul. Sorry, this is an exact quote from Edgar Casey. When there is the thought or the activity of the body in a particular environment, this very activity makes impressions upon the soul, and as the records made by such activity, these are written upon what is known as time or space. These are future predictions that have not come true yet. He predicts that the human lifespan will be extended. He said that we will discover a design for a self-fuel propelling perpetual motion machine. So he's saying that we will some type of energy source that is renewable, and that we're not going to have to travel in cars anymore because we're not going to need gas.
Huh. So we as a person would be able to just do it on our own?
This next prophecy is supposed to come to pass in our lifetimes. So you'll have a gasless motor vehicle, but it's not electric either. They're saying that it's going to run on renewable energy. So it's not talking about the human body.
Okay.
Another prophecy that he gave was that there's going to be conflict in the Persian Gulf. He says, as it is understood by many in the earth's manifestation of the cycle of time, much repeats itself, and there are still influences indicated in the lives of groups banded as nations, banded as people, still influenced by this manifestation. And people asked him, when do you think this great change is going to be expected? Another prediction that he gave is that there is going to be a new root race that is going to be evolving. He suggests that humanity's consciousness is going to evolve and expand over time, and that this expansion of consciousness can be viewed through the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation. From the readings of his perspective, he says that the next great evolution will be tied to the development of what he calls the fifth root race, which is an evolutionary occurrence which makes way for the new age and the new cycle of time and humanity's relationship to God. So, and when I say God, I'm talking about that universal energy called the source that I was talking about earlier. When Edgar Cayce talks about what is to come in the decades that are, I guess, towards the end of the world, he says that there is going to be an enormous impact that China would have upon the global stage. Edgar Cayce predicted great things for China and its people, and he said that eventually China would become the cradle of Christianity. Edgar Cayce's readings also say that there will eventually be a day when an avatar, such as the Lord, appears and basically helps eliminate the evil on Earth. So back to the Yuga cycles. We're kind of getting to the end here. Just to kind of summarize what we've already talked about, the complete Yuga cycle is 24,000 years. Each cycle is about 12,000 years of ascension of human consciousness. So now that we've ended that section for Edgar Cayce, now we're going to talk about, this is something that I said we were going to talk about in the beginning. Now we're going to really talk about it. And that is the size of the human brain. On average, human brains today are roughly 10% smaller than they were during the golden age of people who lived in the late Paleolithic period. The Kali Yuga, which is known for the decline in consciousness and lifespans, also shows decline in physical size. Apparently, our cranial volumes are at the lowest point in this whole cyclical nature. Scientific studies reveal that there was no food scarcity or diseases in the late Paleolithic period, which was the Golden Age, and throughout the descending of the Yuga cycle, sources of food became increasingly scarce, and many kinds of diseases became kind of like a world pandemic, and this caused a lot of violent deaths, and these violent deaths increased significantly during the transition period after the Golden Age. All over the world, human beings have lost 10% of their cranial volume in the last 1200 odd years, which is equivalent to the difference between the average cranial volume between Homo erectus and Homo sapiens. How do you explain that? A paleoanthropologist, which I cannot even pronounce her name, Kathleen McAuliffe. She works for the Natural History Museum in London, and she says that about 10% of the reduction of the cranial volume since the late Paleolithic period says that it's not just stunning, it's something that scientists have not given much attention to, and this deserves a lot of attention. Many ignore this detail because they say that it's insignificant. Can you imagine that? That this absolutely jaw-dropping piece of scientific data, which turns the Darwinian theory of the gradual evolution, they're saying that over time our brains develop and become bigger, when in fact that Darwinian theory is wrong. How can the Darwinian theory, this is taught in schools. We're taught about evolution. We're taught about Darwinism. We're taught that that our brains mutate and somebody gets, I guess, something that makes them a little more smarter, and then their next kin, such as like children, they become smarter because of the mutation in that parent's brain. That's what we're taught. But this is actually false. That through the cycles of time, it has been shown that our cranial volumes have significantly shrunk, so much that we can no longer distinguish between what is truly important and what is not. And that, unfortunately, is exactly what's going on.
Huh. It's crazy. I never thought about it like that.
Because of our declining cranial volume, most of us can no longer discriminate the truth and the lies and determine what is harmful to us and what serves as our evolution to basically constant happiness. Our declining cranial volume is the primary cause of the misery and injustice and violence of the Kali Yuga. According to MIT, the human brain houses incredibly complex and advanced functions. But the question is, do we really only use 10% of our brain? This is an article from a professor at MIT in 2024, so it's very current. They say that movies like Limitless and Lucy play on the notion that humans only use 10% of their brain, and those who unlock that higher percentage can have powers such as infinite memory, telekinesis, telepathy. It's basically saying that the brain remains an untapped human potential. But the idea that we only use 10% of our brain is a 100% myth. In fact, scientists say that we use our brain every day to make even the smallest of decisions to very big decisions. All of our brain is constantly in use and consumes a tremendous amount of energy. Despite making up only 2% of our body weight, it devours at least 20% of our calories. This does not appear to change significantly with different tasks, from typing on a computer to doing yoga, but they say that when we are asleep, our entire brain still remains intensely active. The myth of people using only 10% of our brains began in 1907, when the founder of American psychology suggested that we only use a small part of our brain because that small part of our brain is only possible to make mental and physical decisions to, I guess, help us maintain our resources, whether that's emotional or, trying to retain our resources for living. Brain power lore suggests that Albert Einstein, credited to his genius, was able to access more than 10% of his brain. However, there's no way that this can be documented. Is there a limit to the brain? We indeed use our entire brain, but there may be certain problems that the human brain is fundamentally unable to solve, like a mouse that will never be able to understand chemistry, or like a chimpanzee who will never be able to learn how to do calculus. How can you increase your brain power? There's no trick. Like any organ in the body, the brain works best with proper sleep, proper exercise, low stress, and a well-balanced diet. And this well-balanced diet is supposed to be complex nutrients such as plants. The truth is, if we could just rearrange the furniture with our minds and be able to tap into who's going to be winning the Super Bowl every year, that's something that some people want to use with their brain. But other people want to do different things, such as me. Something that I wish that I could do, which I don't know if I'll ever be able to do it, is remote view. Have you ever remote viewed?
I don't know.
Remote viewing is basically you're able to access a part in time, whether it's past, present, or future, that you're not physically in, but you can travel to that in your brain and at least just witness it. But then you're still in your body. It's incredible.
So I've never heard of that before.
Remote viewing?
I don't think so.
Go down the rabbit hole on TikTok, I swear to God. It's so
I don't get it. Is it kind of like astral projection?
Basically, yes. So remote viewing was something that was used from American, Russian governments probably others too, but those are the first two I could think of. There were projects with the CIA and with the KGB in Russia where they would try to remote view what the US government was trying to do, and then the US government would be trying to figure out what the KGB was trying to do. And then I guess these remote viewers were coming into contact with each other. And they were like, in this space, I'm seeing Americans.
It's the astral projection.
Yes, so it's a realm, but you're able to see other people, apparently. So
well, that's where the red door is in Insidious.
Mm-hmm. Oh my god, I love Insidious.
I'm like, wherever that is.
Geneticists say that the progressive degeneration of the human race is happening due to very harmful genetic mutations that have happened over the past 10,000 years. And these harmful genetic mutations can be caused significantly due to diet and air quality, chemtrails, and our food is poisoning us.
Yeah.
It's affecting our cranial volume.
Everything is makeup, fucking
everything. Mm-hmm.
Beauty products, face products, everything.
Mm-hmm. Cranial specimens of the Cro-Magnon man had extremely large cranial volumes. This was parallel to the Golden Age ancestors, which was around 676 BCE. Even though the last genetic mutation seemed to be driving a huge fluctuation in size of our physical bodies and also our cranial volumes, this also has to do with the Earth's cycles of time. My theory is that there are some source behind this, whether it's electromagnetic or I don't know, like why else would the brain be getting bigger throughout the cycles of time? I mean, I guess like after society collapses, like they don't have all these preservatives in their food, they're just living from the ground. I mean, I guess that's probably a huge factor.
Yeah, because they have to learn to do things for themselves. Because if you don't have anybody to tell you where to go or do, then you have to. I mean, are you going to sit around and die, or are you going to figure it out?
Yeah, and after these collapse of civilizations, they're not forced to get vaccines.
Thank God we aren't, but some places are, because I'm going to tell you what, I'm not.
Well, that was basically the end of the progression of our brains and why our brains are so small compared to people throughout time. And this is basically the last thing that we're going to get into for the day, and that is the Taurid meteor swarm. Finally, I have come to the big question, and that is, what cataclysmic event is going to obliterate our civilization or certain civilizations during this transitional period? And according to the author of the Yuga Shift, Bibu, he indicates that into the events of the last 4 Yuga transitions, that there has been a major role that has played by a comet or meteor impact in periodic reboots of civilization. This happens actually like clockwork. Every 2,700 years, we go, and by we, I mean the Earth, goes through the dense core of a Taurid meteor stream, known as the Taurid resonant swarm, which contains a number of massive dormant comets, full-size asteroids formed during the breakup of a Taurid progenitor comet. And in the article by National Geographic, an Australian astronomer named Duncan Steele was quoted saying something that really made me, I guess, sit and take notice. And that is, every 2,500 to 3,000 years or so, the core of the Taurid meteor swarm passes near the Earth and produces more intense meteor showers for a few centuries. And a gap of a few centuries separates the era of intensity between the North Taurids and the Southern Taurids. So, a couple hundred years of comet impacts. Kyla, didn't you have something about the Taurid meteor swarm?
Yeah. So basically, there's an hypothesis suggests that Enoch was created. So Enoch is, before I get into that, so Enoch is the so-called parent comet of the Taurid meteors. Relatively small, just over 3 miles. It crosses inside Earth's orbit and back out every 3.3 years. As it moves, it sheds dust wherever it goes. A meteor shower occurs when that dust and debris light up while entering Earth's atmosphere at high speeds. They vanish into an incandescent puff of vapor with a glowing tail, creating illusion of a shooting star. But dust isn't all that breaks off the comet, so do bigger chunks the size of pebbles and stones. When they collide with the air, they create the much brighter fireballs which sometimes explode. So that back to what I was saying originally, the coherent catastrophism hypothesis suggests that Comet Enoch was created when an even larger comet broke up into pieces. Enoch survived as the largest piece. The hypothesis also suggests that other mountain-sized chunks broke off and coalesced into a large swarm of fragments too. If such a swarm exists, there is possibility that those large chunks could one day hit Earth as it passes through the swarm. So they think that these sizes are probably smaller, and they're basically thinking that they could be bigger pieces broken off. But just because something might be physically possible doesn't mean that it exists. So it says mainstream astronomers have rejected this theory. Most catastrophic predictions, among other reasons, scientists have never absorbed high concentrations of these mountain-sized objects. So, despite the lack of evidence, researchers on the fringes of science have embraced the idea. They claim the Earth experienced a global catastrophic swarm 12,900 years ago. The impact, they say, caused continent-wide firestorms, floods, and abrupt climate change that led to mass extinction of large mammals such as the woolly mammoth and the disappearance of early Americans known as the Clovis people.
And didn't they say that an asteroid is what wiped out the dinosaurs? Remember that?
Yeah, so it's very much
I feel
similar.
Like mm-hmm.
So I guess there was an event in June 1908, the Tunguska event.
What is it?
It comes an enormous explosion and the sky ballooned down millions of trees in Siberia. An airburst from this was the Tunguska event, an airburst from an object that may have been up to 160 feet in diameter. So it unleashed several megatons of energy, which is roughly the equivalent of a large thermonuclear bomb, which happens is this. The incoming object penetrates deep into the Earth's atmosphere, and the dense air slows it down and heats it up until it vaporizes and explodes. So that's like kind of describing, I guess, how the energy creates the explosion.
Okay. See, this for me kind of solidifies what happens at the the periodic Yuga ending cataclysms. I can't speak.
It's thinking that this might have been like Taurid, maybe? Like, could this object have been a Taurid? And after all, they cross Earth's orbit twice a year, not just in autumn, but also in June. And here's the evidence. First, the descriptions of the trajectory of the Tunguska airburst, as reported by eyewitness observers, is consistent with that of an object coming from the Taurid stream.
Okay.
What's more, the pattern of blast damage on the ground beneath an airburst depends on the trajectory of exploding object. Supercomputer simulations show that the shape of the surface blast that would be caused by an exploding Taurid object matches the pattern of the fallen trees at Tunguska.
Okay.
So, finally, the Taurid The Taurid Mater shower. In 1975, people observed large fireballs and seismometers, previously placed on the moon by Apollo astronauts, detected seismic events on the lunar surface. They interpreted these events as impacts presumably made by the Taurid meteors. In 2023 and 2036.
It's 2032 and 2036.
The Taurid swarm, assuming it exists, is predicted to be closer to the Earth than any time since 1975. And that might mean the moon and perhaps the Earth could be pelted again in those years. There is time to figure this out, and scientists can expand their astronomical surveys to look for
Tunguska-sized objects at the locations where they are predicted to be the next time they are in our vicinity. Most of the scientists remain skeptical that such a swarm exists, but the job of the planetary defenders is to investigate possible threats, even if the risk is small. After all, a Tunguska-sized object could convincingly demolish a major city, kill millions. An accurate count of objects on a potential collision course is essential. Put doomsday scenarios and ancient apocalypses aside, the real question and still an open one is whether a torrid swarm could deliver more Tunguska-sized objects than would otherwise would be expected. This would mean we would have underestimated the risk from future outbursts, so we're just not really prepared, I guess. But I got this from a website, but it was made on November 15th in 2024 by Mark Boslow at the University of New Mexico. So he wrote that article about everything that has to do with the meteor and the event that basically leads them to believe that there could be a future reoccurrence of what happened and that Tunguska was potentially, the Taurid meteor crashing and causing destruction.
So, when it comes to this asteroid that could potentially hit Earth, this is basically what this whole podcast is about. We're now finally getting to the point here at the very end because we had to explain all of that other stuff to get to this. So, NASA has actually just announced, this was in the last month or two, that there is an asteroid named 2024 YR4 that has a very good chance of hitting Earth in 2032. Our chances were a month ago 1 in 43. As of 3 days ago, NASA has increased the chances of the asteroid hitting Earth to 1 in 32. So it is a very, very good chance that this asteroid is going to hit.
Especially if there's been records of it happening in the past. And, I don't know. If it's a constant cycle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then it could come back potentially.
Mm-hmm. This asteroid is big enough to destroy an entire city or multiple cities. And basically, in recent weeks, NASA has been steadily increasing the likelihood of this strike. And the odds have peaked on February 18th. But I guess the odds are just getting even worse that this is going to hit. And there's a tiny chance that this asteroid could hit the moon instead of the Earth because of how close they are in vicinity. But it still doesn't change the odds that it might hit our planet. And we're kind of I don't know, we are kind of just sitting ducks. It's not like we can do anything. It's saying online that this asteroid is the size of a football field. I saw earlier that it was the size of the Big Ben clock tower in London.
And originally I had said that the original one was 3 miles long. So, the big one, the big one.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's just how big, just if you can imagine how big something could be. But it doesn't matter about, even if it's not 3 miles long, if it's 1 mile long, the impact that something from such a speed that would create, like I was just saying, with the force of the energy, that would be, it's like a nuclear bomb, basically, fucking a crazy nuclear bomb.
So, as indicated by what Kyla just read, since the Earth is due to pass through the center of the Taurid resonant swarm in the years of 2032 to 2036, it has very ominous implications for our civilizations, and there are likely events that will, pull down the curtain of civilization and society. And we are going to play for you. This is a simulation. This is not real, but this is just basically a simulation of what it would be if you were in one of the cities that was set for the asteroid impact. So just imagine that you were, you're living where you're at right now. You're going about your day. You just got home from work. You plan to go for a walk with your dog in the evening. You're planning to make dinner. You have a date night with your significant other. You're just living your life. And just imagine that you're somebody who does not know about this, has no idea. And then this happens.
This is not a test. Attention, this is a national emergency from the Department of Homeland Emergencies. An asteroid will impact the following cities on the screen approximately 12 hours from now. This is not a test. Please gather your belongings and head to the nearest emergency center in one of the following cities listed in this emergency broadcast. This is not a test. Please gather your belongings and head to the nearest emergency center in one of the following cities listed in this emergency broadcast.
Just imagine that happening within the next 8 years or less. It's pretty crazy to think about.
It'd be like a movie, dude.
Mm-hmm. And this is potentially going to happen. And we're basically standing at the doorstep of a huge transformation of our planet that will change our life and the environment of our planet. And it's not something that we've ever imagined, but the writing is on the wall and the party is over, and we need to kind of sober up in a way. The old ways are not going to work anymore, and our planetary vibrations are going to change very quickly post 2025. And as the Kali Yuga energies wane after 2025 and we now enter this new transitional period, the tyrants who control the affairs of the earth may begin to find that their evil plans are no longer going to come to fruition as easily as they did before, because they are going to face such opposition from the people around the world, and humanity may start to become more polarized than ever, leading to a greater social and economic stability after we get through the insanity of this instability where we're at right now. We are getting closer and closer to the next world war, and an eruption of insanity and a large scale of violence typically happens during the end of a yuga, and it is very unlikely to be different in this time than it was in any other time. And with the outbreak of wars and revolutions on a global scale, the intensity of the various natural catastrophes such as floods, cyclones, landslides, wildfires, earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcanic eruptions may increase during this time, as that's normally what is prophesied during the end times throughout many different cultures. It's not something that anybody would want to have to deal with in their lifetime. Of course not. We are dealing with environmental catastrophes even right now, such as wildfires, volcanic eruptions. We're dealing with earthquakes around the world. We're dealing with massive flooding. Literally look at what was happening last year in China with the massive floods.
Even Kentucky right now it's flooding because all the snow.
Mm-hmm.
All of the snow right now is flooding everything out that lives in a valley, basically.
Mm-hmm. We are also propped up by relentless media propaganda designed to brainwash the masses. So it's not like that's anything new. Everybody knows about that who has a decent amount of common sense.
Freaking all of those people out in North Carolina, or where was it?
Yeah, it was North Carolina up to Florida, where that hurricane.
That huge flood, dude.
Mm-hmm.
That huge flood that just destroyed the whole valley.
The hurricane and shit, yeah. This stuff is happening right now, and it's very frequent.
Greece.
The amount of changes that are unfolding is going to be tough, but if we become resilient in our thoughts and our lifestyle and keep our psyche rooted in our true soul vibration, which is to not only protect ourselves, but to help protect each other, this is how we can navigate through these quote-unquote end times. Yes, this is not... If the comet actually impacts the Earth. It's not going to wipe out the entire civilization. Not even close. It's just going to wipe out at least several cities, and it's going to affect whatever area that it lands. The surrounding continents are all going to feel it. And we as a collective are going to feel it. Even if it doesn't necessarily hit us. I mean, we're landlocked in Ohio, but who knows? We could have a tsunami that reaches us if it hits London or something. Like, I think that's where the projection was. It said that like the 90% projectile was showing for London.
Oh, okay.
So,
really?
So let's just say it hits London, and then the East Coast, because of that impact, we have a tsunami.
Yeah.
That's a potential scenario, which is not something I want to think about, but it is a scenario. And basically, we're going to end this here. This is the very end. What is your call to action here? Because no amount of wealth can save you. Even billionaires have built bunkers, they have built, underground places for them to live. Like, I think Mark Zuckerberg is one of them. You can look it up. I think that he's actually built like an underground bunker for him and his family if like some natural catastrophe
I've seen some people
happens.
doing that stuff. I forget the people, but yeah, I've seen people who have been doing it.
And I mean, no amount of money is going to save you here. The Hopi people said that they are certain that only the righteous people selected by God will move forward to pave the way for the next cycle of humanity. And between 2025 to 2040, these are the end times that all ancient cultures are talking about. And remember that all of this evidence is pointing to time is not being linear, time is a cycle, and this time that you're in right now, it's not going to last forever. And something that we also touched up on is the Earth is a school for consciousness, and we are made to grow and evolve and learn here. So be realistic. Hard times may come, but you have to have faith that this is all going to work out. And you need to do your best to be kind and compassionate to your fellow man, woman, they, them, she, he, whomever. Humanity will not become extinct with an asteroid impact, not even close. But something that needs to be addressed is the amount of evil in the world and what we can do to not let that evil control us anymore. We have to start being kind to each other. We have to start helping each other out. And we just need to look out for each other. Fasten your seatbelts.
Communicate with each other.
Start learning some survival skills maybe, and maybe creating a survival bag.
Trust one another.
In the mind-bending end of times, more like end of this cycle of time as we know it, this is the beginning of the transition period. So do with that information what you will. If you have stuck with us this long, we appreciate you listening. And join us next week when we talk about Hollyweird.
Oh, God.
We're going to be talking about rituals. We're going to be talking about theories about what's going on with sex trafficking, child trafficking, human trafficking in general. Like, there have been...
Honestly, it could delve deeper into just Hollyweird. It could delve deep into the whole elite, rich people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got Children Protective Services involved, allegedly. Disney World, allegedly involved.
Walmart.
I was going to say Walmart, but I wasn't going to say it because I was like, but yeah, Walmart allegedly too. But like all those missing people, like
Missing people
that you've seen on the signs. Do you even see those anymore? Because I don't.
The evolution of Doja Cat, and actually I did see it the other day. I was at a Walmart that I don't go to typically. And
Probably that's why.
And I did see the missing children signs on the wall as I was leaving, and I was like, oh my god.
I don't know. Basically, it just delves deep into the rich and famous and their weird shit that you might possibly think is true. It probably is true.
There's rituals involved. There's huge parties where there's like really messed up shit happening. Also, mine.
The reality is the people that don't want to play the game end up getting
And Lady Gaga. Oh my god, I can't wait to talk about her too. I love her evolution. Especially with Abracadabra.
I do like that song, yes.
Abracadabra.
Because you're on asterisk.
What?
Because you're on asterisk.
Yeah. Also, another thing is we're going to be talking about like hidden messages in songs and also like subliminal messages that not just in like songs but like also like movies in Hollywood. Like why else would they be making movies like It Ends With Us and what was the other one that you said the other day?
Blink Twice.
Yeah, Blink Twice. Like why else would they be making these movies?
But then it specifically says at the beginning that it's like not real and it's like what's the word when they try to say like this is all
it's a simulation.
It's all fake, like it's not real. This is just something about the idea of wealth and power and what it can. It's like there's like a quote at the beginning like saying like this isn't like real, but this is like what a depiction of like wealth and power or something like. But like I don't know.
It's a whole can of worms that we're going to be unpacking. So
honestly, there should be like 2 parts to that.
I mean, we might have to. It might be a 2-parter. We will.
It probably will be. I mean, what do you want? What do you want from me?
Hey, like we got to do this research. Like we said earlier, we are not using AI to get this research. We are doing this research ourselves, and we are doing it organically. So that takes a lot of time, and sometimes we get so much information that there's no way that we can do a 4-hour episode.
Yeah, girl.
We're already approaching 3 hours right now, so. We love you guys, and we hope you keep it chatty, keep it nice,
keep it sweet,
because we
are not keeping it short.
So, this has been Chatterbox.
Or Chatterbox. Okay, 3, 2, 1. This has been Chatterbox.
Mwah! Love you guys. Have a good week.
Love you.